Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Journey and Wander, a podcast where we talk about people's goals and what keeps them moving. And last week we got to talk to Cody Parr, got to talk about his ups and downs and everything that he just basically what keeps him moving and what the products of that are. And we got to hear some pretty interesting ones about his music and comedy and such. And today we get to talk to Carter Anderson. So so Cody, it's good to have you back.
Good to be back, Cole. Thanks for having me,
We had you on last week.
Yeah, it was a good time.
So I was just wondering if you had anything to plug or nothing.
Right now, my merchandise line, we're putting together some new collections for shopbeertown.com. So it's associated with my comedy company, Beertown Comedy. I'm really excited about that. Just moving forward into the end of summer, beginning of fall, coming out with a couple new collections. And we're posting bi-weekly right now for my podcast, which is Hold My Beer. And you can find Hold My Beer on Instagram at welcome to HMB, or on any podcast where you can find it. Just Hold My Beer with myself and Grant Lucas.
Awesome. And we got to talk a little bit about you last week, and what has anything changed that, or you made a big impact in that in the last week?
In the last week, nothing significant has happened, but we're still progressing forward with getting my hour-long comedy special put on Amazon Prime. So that has been slowed down because of COVID and things that are happening in the entertainment industry. But we're still making baby steps towards locking in something to where we can stream that for everybody to see.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm in the B-roll. We'll see how that is. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, man.
Alrighty, so now we'll introduce Carter Anderson here, the man of the hour. How's it going, Carter?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Anything for you guys. In Oregon.
Yeah. You guys. So today we're gonna be breaking down what makes you a man, and we're gonna.
It's gonna be that kind of a show, right?
No. We're gonna expose you for the fraud that you are, Carter, by opening you up.
So that won't be hard.
Well, so do you have anything to plug before we start off here?
Yes. First of all, I'm really glad that you got a show with BLC. Like, it's great. Like, this is long overdue for you. So
thank you.
Good shit. I think that's great. But I have a couple shows also that are way better than this one, guys. First of all, I do In the Meantime. It's a comedy game show where I have 3 comedians make memes throughout the show, and then they give me a little bit of shit. I host it with my good friend Sam Noorani. It's on Big Laugh Comedy Network on Facebook and YouTube. We do that, and it comes out every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time. I also do a show called Geeked Out, which is a discussion show about all things nerdy. This past week, we talked about Captain America, and then we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian pretty soon. Today we're shooting one, and we're going to be talking about the John Wick trilogy, which is so fucking amazing.
Man. You're going to hate. I've only seen the first one, and it was not that long ago. Well, but can I tell you one thing I really love, though, is I just love how scared of him they are. Like when they go, wait, you did that to John Wick? Oh my God. And they just start battening down the hatches. Yeah. And like, that's the best part of the movie. And that's before you even see him do any action.
It's a great movie. And I think, Keanu Reeves has already been like a huge star. He's been a star for like over 30 years. Like, he's been like a big fucking deal already. He's already been doing his thing.
Yeah.
But it's still amazing that he's like, getting I think it's nice to see that he's finally getting the critical acclaim that he deserves. Because people used to like not really respect him as much as an actor. And now I really do. And I've already always respected him as a person. He's kind of a good guy throughout, and that's important, because I think there are a lot of people that want to be a genuine ally, but then they either don't know how to do it, or when they find out what it takes to do that, they're like, I'm not doing all that. And that sounds like a lot of work, and it would mean not putting myself first. So I'm too narcissistic for all that shit. Get out of here. But anyway, that show, Geeked Out, that airs every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Also on Big Laugh Comedy Network. So definitely check out all of those things, some geeky shit, some meme shit, and then just a bunch of like other random Zoom shows that I'm going to be doing throughout the week. And check me out whenever this COVID shit ends, whenever we like turn off the world and then plug it back in. And, that's all
I always we could bring Cody Parr in again right now. But I was been talking to people about how the COVID happening and to all of our goals and to all of our stand-up stuff, it was almost like the snap in Infinity War, and then in Endgame, you see the comedians acting, it's almost like you can be like, oh, that's Fat Thor, that guy, it destroyed him. And then there's like some guys, you're just like, wow, you have a kid, your life seems so much better off. And it's interesting how it affected everybody differently.
Yeah. Either in like a negative way or a positive way. I don't know. Whenever like I talk to people, if ever they're like saying, "Oh, I'm thriving right now," I'm like, kind of suck a dick, dude.
Yeah,
like,
you
unless you enjoy a suck a dick.
Yeah, you better be John Wick or Chuck Norris to be saying that kind of crap right now.
Seriously, it's just really it's weird. Like between the escalated police brutality and riots and COVID shit and
there is a buffet of disasters to choose from.
Right. But I think when people say they're at their best or whatever, I highly doubt they mean with all of that shit going on. And they just mean when just staying home in quarantine. They're like, oh, I didn't realize I was a hermit my whole life.
Yeah. Introverts are thriving.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And it's like, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm thriving right now, but I was thankful for that experience. I think, a lot of us, we would have never taken a break if it wasn't mandatory.
It's true. I mean, like when Kevin Hart got into his horrible accident back in I guess it was April of last year, he was, kind of in bed rest, and he was kind of having to reset his whole life and, as well as his spine. But he kind of realized I needed to slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
Like this was a warning. Like if I don't slow down, I'm going to die. Like I can't do everything. I'm Kevin Hart. I'm this big comedian, but I'm also a father and a husband, and I'm a friend, and I run this thing, and I do this and that, and this and that, and flip the pussy here, and do this and that, do this and that, and all this, and it's too much. Sometimes you genuinely have to just stop for a second and just chill out. So it's hard being away from doing real stand-up right now, but my Zoom shows keep me pretty busy. And visiting school and all of these other things, it keeps me busy. So I don't want to say that this is a good thing, but I think it has enabled all of us to take into perspective what really is important.
I did not realize how little sleep I was getting until all this happened. I was like, oh my God, I was really exhausted all the time with never getting enough sleep. And then now I'm just like, oh yeah, that's something I need to look out for going back into things.
Yeah, this also made me very aware, hyper aware of how resistant my body and mind would be to a prison cell. because I've been locked in my room for so long. I'm like, it's only been how long? It's felt like 84 years. Like, what is going on?
It's like you haven't even made it to breakfast yet, Cody.
I know, and I have a computer, a phone. I have things to entertain me, like quite a bit. Like, maybe the days would go by faster if I lived in the fear of somebody always shanking me from behind. But you never know. I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like people who weren't chronic masturbators, it's almost like being prison gay, where they're like prison masturbators. They're like, I wouldn't normally do this, but I got to.
Yeah, that is.
What else are you gonna do? It's like either that or read or like lift weights or I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of other shit to do in prison. Like
yeah. Well, so I think we should jump right into the questions, Carter. We'll start with the first one, the most general of them. What is your journey? You know, when you, I feel like, you know, whether we know it or not, we all have a squirrel we're chasing, you know, that we get out of bed and we chase every day. And in the most general kind of terms, what would you say your squirrel is?
I've never heard that.
I was gonna say, please answer that.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. But after hearing it, it's upsetting that I've never heard that before, because that's perfect. That's way better than like chase your dreams. Like, no, find your squirrel, bro.
Yeah, because it's not something that you ever have to necessarily catch. It's just something keeping you busy. Like you're just like, I'm gonna get up and this is what I do, you know?
If you spend your entire life chasing the squirrel, then you spent your entire life doing something that's at least important to you, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, anytime that somebody has like a conflict, I always try to be like, I hope you know this is the good part. You're going to look back on this and be like, oh, I'm glad I had this kind of thing in my life.
That's true. I mean, conflict makes a movie. Like,
Can I write this down? Can I write this down real quick? Squirrel equals journey.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the new. We should have called this podcast Squirrel Tales.
That would have been good. Yeah, you missed out on a great opportunity.
Oh yeah.
The Merc would have
anyway, Carter. So what would you say what is your squirrel?
My squirrel is. I mean, I want to say that it's my stand-up, but I haven't really done stand-up in almost 4 months.
Right.
So I would say more than anything, what I've done like ever since I was a kid was entertain. I'm an entertainer. Like entertainment has been my squirrel for as long as I can remember. I guess since I was 9, give or take. Like I grew up watching shit like Martin and shit like Frasier and Muppet Babies and things like that. And it was just always about like entertaining. I just want to like, you know, make people laugh. But I also want to like make people like feel other shit. And I kind of want to just do that on like a larger level. And I feel like every year I get to slightly do it on a larger level. I get to do a bit more. Like I've gotten to step up my game like a little bit more. It's slower than like I would want it to be. And you know, definitely with all of this shit, like it's slowed it down to almost a halt. But I still kind of find myself able to, like, you know, reach out to other people through other shows like this or through my TikTok or Instagram. Those have been like really great tools. That's pretty much have been the things that have kept me from like going nuts. And like,
right. Well, and I mean, so you said you thought it, or you thought it was stand up, but now that you don't have stand up, you're finding other things, and I think that's really interesting because I thought it was stand up too, and then when stand up went away, I, was still doing, even though I couldn't do stand up, I was doing other things that made me go, what is my real goal? And in general terms, I kind of came up with my real goal is to develop interesting enough perspective to create something captivating. And Cody's, in a general sense, was to you wanted to constantly like beat yourself, like you want to well, I don't know what the word you said was.
Constantly striving to reach my full potential.
Correct.
And that is something that is evolving as we turn the page to a new chapter every single day. So
oh yeah, well, and you know, and I think that's a good one because that comes out in music, comes out in comedy, comes out in making skits, and you know, it's yeah. So what would you say in those kinds of general terms, Carter? Do you think really you know fits everything?
Like what fits everything you
like
mean?
why yeah, so you do comedy, you also do your podcast, you do, you know, you do some skit videos, you do, and what what drives that?
I think what drives that is kind of being slightly forced out of my comfort zone. Like the whole TikTok thing. TikTok is for like, you know, well, I at least used to think that TikTok is strictly for like tweens and teens, and you know, and then
It
a bunch
is,
of
but
like
yeah,
that are taking off to tweens and teens. Like, and it very much is. But I've still been able to like kind of find my voice on there, especially after the past like, you know, couple of weeks, and still
right.
pretty much do comedy and like still put out content. Like it's like the thing that just drives me is like just putting shit out there into the ether that like will make people think and will make people know more about other people. I think we all get very comfortable, like, you know, in our own little worlds. I think that's why there's so much like prejudice and racism and like homophobia and all these sort of things. It's because we're all like swallowed up in our own shit and like very incapable of empathy. I hope that with my content and with the things that I do, I'm able to fill people with empathy and sympathy and like an ability to see, oh man, maybe it is kind of difficult being black or gay in America. But I never really thought about that. Hey, Cheryl, go ahead and take that Trump sign down. Let's take it down. Cheryl, take it down.
Get off the shed.
That was that. Did you know that was in his audition video?
Yeah,
and Will
that was
Ferrell,
in his audition.
They turned it into a skit like years and years later. But if you watch Will Ferrell's Saturday Night Live audition video, that is in there, and Harry Carey's in there. Him acting as a cat playing with like office supplies, that was all in there. But yeah, there was the get off the shed. Anyways, welcome, Hendersons. How do you like your burger? Get off the shed. Get off.
For the people that don't know, that's Will Ferrell on Saturday Night Live. That's the Saturday Night Live audition from him. So just for the people that don't know.
That's so great. You know, it's so crazy. You know, Will Ferrell, I mean, got on there like after almost everyone from like sort of their like 98 Chicago Bulls team kind of got fired or like left the show. Like Spade had left at that point, Adam Sandler. I think that was around the time that like Farley had passed away or was like fixing to. You know, I don't think he was planning it, but like, you know, it was just like kind of when everyone had left, and then he just kind of came in and just brought a whole new energy to the show. Very interesting.
So with I got a question from what I'm understanding, back to what you were saying prior to me interrupting all that, but your journey, your destination is obviously fueled by your journey, and your journey, from what I'm understanding, is to kind of open the hearts and minds of people that may have a closed perspective, closed mind, and things like that. Is that what your kind of overall goal for life is, to help people do that through the entertainment and through the comedy and through the passions that you have creatively?
Yeah, pretty much. In a nutshell, I think that is the key to like making this place better. I don't think that I'm not narcissistic enough to think that like stand-up comedy or comedy in general is what's going to like make the world better, but I think it can at least incite an emotion in people, and that emotion will be the spark that makes people better.
Yeah,
It makes
so
us all a little less shitty to each other.
your creative passions kind of allowing yourself and your work to be a shepherd for somebody to become growth, like have a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's especially important, especially with when it comes to kids. So that's why I like things like TikTok and all this social media. People, young children, a lot of like young people are starting to learn like that maybe the things that their parents believe and the things that their grandparents believe are like really kind of fucked up and not okay. And it's like a really played out whack ass way of looking at the world, looking at the people around you. It's like clicking with them. I'm 33 and I'm a 6'5" black man. I've known that, but other people, they're just realizing it today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I do want to elaborate, but I think my elaboration is going to start to answer the next question. So let's just hop into the next question real quick and we'll keep this rolling. What inspired your journey? And we already kind of dipped into that a little bit, but like it's probably more than one thing, especially with how broad yours seems to be. What are the things that got the gears turning?
It's kind of a lot of stuff. I was as a child I was a big TV head. I still kind of am. I love TV. Like I enjoy reading more now, but like if I have to choose between the two, like I'll probably go for TV most times, and then maybe just read a chapter in a book just before bed at bedtime. But also, kids read more and don't do drugs. But also, like do some like in college. Don't like
don't be a rube.
I think we need a separate podcast episode just to classify what real drugs are and what the drugs we're told their drugs are.
Yeah. Well, look, I went to a Christian middle school, and there I thought like the hardest drug that they were dealing in the back alleys of New York was weed. That's what I thought. And I remember seeing in eighth grade, I remember seeing it was like an anti-drug thing, and all these kids were passing around a joint. For the longest time, until I started smoking weed, I had always thought that was a cigarette. And I was like, cigarettes make you hungry? Because they like did it and ate their mom's casserole or whatever the fuck. And like, I was super naive to all of that.
I thought the hardest drug in Christian middle school was Islam, but I must have went to it. They show you a beheading video like they do in traffic school. It's like, you want this to happen to you?
Oh no, not my Johnny, no.
Yeah, meanwhile there's a bunch of Native Americans over there like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, well, so
all right.
But yeah, no, like what is the let's just go back into what inspired everything for you.
So I would say the big things that made me really want to get into like entertainment and like be on TV was shows like Martin. First of all, that was a big one. When I saw Martin, I was like, holy shit, like this is like perfect. It's everything. Like it was just like just a total like encapsulation of like being black, and you have like your two best friends that are kind of like always over at your house. You've got your girl. Like I wanted like that life, like growing up.
Right.
And then, but then stuff like Def Comedy Jam, like that when I was like about 7 or 8 or stuff. That's when like Def Comedy Jam was really popping up. Cole, you don't know too much about this because you're 12 now.
I
know about Def Comedy Jam. I've seen a little bit. But not the old stuff, the new one that they're all old.
That was for me. Mine was Power Rangers is what set me off into becoming an actor and entertainer, because then I was able to conceptualize what an entertainer was. And then it was like Martin had elements of sketch comedy because of the characters he would portray in the show, the dynamic of the friendship. And then I was put on to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and in Living Color, and I was obsessed with both of them. Just the Wayans brothers, Jim Carrey, all that stuff kind of put me on. And I was like, this is what I want to do my whole life. My mom
Well, it's
said they were
interesting.
pretending. I was like, I want to pretend. I want to get paid to pretend. So
Yeah.
I totally connect with you and what you're saying, Carter.
Well, it's really interesting, and I don't know if it's just entertainers that are like this, or if this is something that everybody. But isn't it interesting, especially in your developmental years, when you find a show or you find a piece of media that doesn't teach you, it doesn't like tell you how to be somebody else, but when you see it, you go, that there was always a part of myself that was like that, but I never knew I could articulate it until now. Like I feel like SpongeBob for me gave me this sense of being able to not take things seriously if I don't want to.
And you don't, yeah. And that's pretty much what it was for me. Yeah, stuff like that as well. Like pretty much all of the Nicktoons. I mean, all those shows. That's how I learned how to speak. That's how I learned how to, like, most of my words and shit like that. It's pretty much what made me who I was. Like, to go back to Martin for a moment, like that show was, by that time, like all of the variety shows that was over. Like that whole era was done. But it kind of came back slightly because of Martin. Like it was a variety show within the confines of a sitcom. He found a way. He found a way to do it. And obviously was very inspired by things like Eddie Murphy and stuff like that. But honestly, I didn't even know about Eddie Murphy being a comedian until I was like 17 years old, because he had already stopped for
he was
years.
just the dragon in Mulan and the donkey from Shrek and stuff.
He was Dragon in Mulan and Nutty Professor, like and
Haunted
Boomerang.
Mansion.
I knew Boomerang at the time. Yeah, Haunted Mansion and stuff like that. But then, at 17, then I was like, oh, he had this whole world. Same thing with like Robin Williams. Like they had this whole other thing that like they were known for, and then now they're known for like Mrs. Doubtfire or some shit like that.
See, I had the misconception that like when I watched TV, and I knew what comedians were before I knew really what acting or actors were. So I had an understanding of comedy before the concept of theater or acting. So I assumed when I was younger that all funny people on TV were stand-up comedians. That's just how I viewed it.
Oh.
So I always thought Will Smith was a stand-up comedian. I'm like, he's the funniest one on the show. It's his show. Of course he is. Martin is a stand-up. Like, I had to differentiate. So the weird dynamic for me was I knew Eddie Murphy was a comedian before I knew he was an actor. So I was brought up on, I always talk about being half redneck, half Mexican. So I was brought up literally on Eddie Murphy and Jeff Foxworthy, Tupac and Garth Brooks. Like I had this like hip hop dynamic and this country dynamic to every single thing that I did. So there was a lot of perspective.
Did your parents like play those like records for you and stuff like that as a kid? That's why.
It wasn't
my parents
hip hop
didn't really
though.
do that.
I didn't have the hip hop. It was just because of shows like Martin, In Living Color, Fresh Prince that I started to try and listen to more and more hip hop. I didn't actually listen to a full hip hop song until I was 12 years old. It was all country and pop music up until that point. Like I had heard it in the background, heard it here and there, but like what you're saying with the Martins of the world, he found a way to do certain things. It was just for me, I was be able to kind of bridge worlds of like country and hip hop, and that molded my sense of humor in the same way that yours was kind of molded by it. So
yeah, that makes sense. That is so interesting. I've never really thought of that perspective before. But that's full circle. That's kind of what I was talking about. Like, already, like, I never really thought of that before. That's a good point. Cheryl. It's just.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think is going to be a common question that I ask in this segment is, are you religious? Because I feel like that affects a lot of people's goals and how they see like what they're going to do with life. And I'm just curious how that takes part in your life.
I'm not going to say I'm pretty religious. I don't think that's fair to people that actually are pretty religious.
Right.
It just doesn't feel or sound right to me.
And I'll elaborate why I asked that, because I'm agnostic. Like I said, I grew up Christian, but I'm pretty agnostic right now. And, of course, I went through like a nihilist atheist phase, and now it's definitely more agnostic. But I feel like when you leave religion, you kind of come to this conclusion where you're kind of just like, oh, so there probably isn't an afterlife. There probably wasn't a whole lot of meaning to this. If it all just started with a big bang, and then the earth is going to be dead someday, and so is the universe, and then people, even after I die, people will only remember me for a little while, if they do at all. And it's like, and so I feel like that makes you do one of two things: either that's a scary thing, or it becomes a freeing thing where you go, let's make the best of it. And I feel like something that all of our goals share in common is, oh, we've got this limited amount of time, let's make a big splash,
I guess that's one way to look. I mean, those are two interesting ways to look at it. One of them seems like a real bummer, and then the other one is like, well, yeah, I mean, but it's not all about me.
Yeah. Well, I saw a meme that said said millennials, and it showed like a kid or a guy crying, and it said life doesn't matter, and then it said Gen Z, and it shows the guy getting out of the car with the yellow sunglasses, putting on the yellow sunglasses, says life doesn't matter. It's like, I feel like that's totally the divide, the Nirvana versus the Katy Perry kids.
I think religion can do that for you too, though. Like,
well, I think it can. I think it's just in a different way, and it's not like I think one is better than the other. It's just my own personal conclusion that I came. Well, and it's not even a conclusion. But just where I got to and how that affected me. But so that's what I always kind of like asking people that when talking about people's goals.
I think as far as like my goals with how Christianity like plays into that for me is that I look out into the world. I look out and see what's happening to people. I look out and see what's happening to people that look a lot like me, like pretty much all of them look like me, horrible things, like lethal things. And I think to myself, why isn't that me? Why am I still here? And the conclusion that I draw is that I am here to do something. Like I don't think that it was all just sort of a big bang. There's too much crazy shit. There's often times where I think that intervention doesn't play as big a part in religion as people think. Like, I think most of the time, like, God is really just like a kid playing Sims, but then he gets called to like, go to dinner or do his homework and like take out the trash. And all those times that he's gone away from his computer, horrible things happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I loved was Lex Luthor's line from Batman v Superman was when he said, God can either be all-knowing or all-powerful. There's no way he can be both.
That is really, I forgot about that line.
Interesting.
Old boy from Social Network, he actually did an okay job as Lex Luthor.
I really didn't mind it.
Wasn't that bad a movie.
It was
okay, dude. The Batman warehouse scene, man, that was good. And it looks like they're capturing that same vibe in the new one in the trailer. Man, we can talk Batman for a long time.
Has your religious experience throughout life been a foundation at all in any of the decisions that you've made on the journey that you've had? Like, has religion or a lack of religion inspired the journey that you're on in any way?
I'm gonna say, honestly, it's sort of a yes and no. I think it's played a part in how I do comedy. Like, I want to do more positive comedy. I don't want to like be necessarily as like self-deprecating as I could be, I still do some of that shit, you know, and I still say things like shit, all of that stuff. For like a while, a brief moment, I was considering being like a Christian comic, you know, and it seemed like crazy, but think about
Raking
it.
the big
There are
bucks
way
with
more
very little
churches.
practice. I feel like that's a way easier market to like break through in, you know, than
There are way
going
more
after
churches
broad
than
comedy.
there are comedy clubs.
Since about March of this year, I've been working from home. Honestly, I thought it was going to be easy going. Then I remembered that I have a wife and 3 small children. Stop biting your sister. Honey, I didn't like your sister's picture on Instagram because I find her attractive. I liked it because she's family. What do you mean you're going to your mother's? All right, you can color, but no markers. You know why. What's that smell? What do you have in your mouth? So yeah, it's been a little bit stressful. Elevate is great for relieving stress, preventing hangovers, and even enhancing your mood. It has 0% THC, it's calorie-free, and it works in minutes. If you're feeling stressed or wound up, or you just want to feel better overall, then try Elevate. Oh wow, that's not bad. Michael, could you do me a favor? Take your sister out of the microwave, okay? Thanks, buddy. And use code PLC at checkout to get 15% off all products.
Now would be a good time to move on to the next question. And it's kind of, how did you start your journey? So we talked about, you know, what inspired it. What's the first actions you started taking to do that? Because you said you were in plays a lot. You were an acting kid, and was that where it started?
Yeah, pretty much. I started doing theater and acting back in high school, my junior year of high school, and did about 6, 7, 8 plays from there till graduation, and then went to Angelo State University and majored in theater over there, and that was pretty much most of my life for years and years and years. I honestly didn't think that I was going to get into stand up or anything like that. I was actually for a very long time leaning towards working in radio. And I thought that was going to kind of be where my journey was going to end or lead rather. So I worked for a radio station for about 2-3 years or so. And it was great, but it was pretty much still like theater. It's a great way to express yourself, but there are only certain things that you can express as a character or as in a certain play. You got to stick to the script, which I had a very real issue with. I would kind of get in trouble for that a lot. I would ad-lib all the time.
Me too.
Oh yeah. That's what I think. That's the part. I feel like I would think of a funnier line in the middle of it. I would feel out the audience and be like, I know this line's not going to work, and I'd try something else, and then everybody would get screwed up.
Yeah, they don't like that. They really the rule of thumb in theater is that Edgar Allan Poe or any other fucking writer knows more about writing than you do, and sometimes I guess. But yeah, it was really an issue. I got fired from one play back in college. It wasn't in college; it was at a community theater.
Right.
But then, as it happened, they were like, "Dude, you're on your way to way better things. You're gonna look back on this,
right,
and then bring it up at on a podcast you're on, and you're gonna be like, that was a really long time ago, and it was a long time ago. It was
I got kicked out of my drama class in high school my senior year because the class was a little too full, and this might not actually be for you. And literally, I had never acted a day in my life. I moved to LA, and within 2 weeks, I was on a Wayans Brothers movie, and I got a leading role in an independent feature film. And I wanted to go back to that drama teacher, and I would just say so many horrible things, you don't know me, you don't know what I'm capable of.
I do want to know how you got into act. So you go into school and you see the poster, drama club is high or whatever, or was it a friend that's hey, I know you'd be really good at this? Because I remember, here's my experience with drama in high school. like every Thursday at lunch in the drama room, they would put on like a Saturday Night Live style sketch show with like some improv and games. And I always loved that. And I dreamed of doing that. I was like, I want to get on that, but I had to do like all the other plays and stuff, which really wasn't my thing. But like that, that's probably what got me closest to doing plays if I ever were to. And so what's the first action that got you into it?
Well, the first, I don't know. I mean, I took classes, like little like theater classes, like every once in a while in middle school. And then I took one in high school that junior year. And my teacher, Mrs. Larson, she was like, hey, there's this competition thing that we're doing. And I know you're not like, seriously into this or anything like that, but I really think that if you and this other guy like do a scene together, that I think you could get really far and it would be great. And so I can't remember what it was, but it was some old like comedy like play thing. It was just one scene from it. And honestly, like we shouldn't have done that scene because like out of context, it literally made no sense. But it was kind of like a lesser version of Match. I think that's pretty much.
How did that end up doing?
My partner didn't show up.
So damn.
I was there. So we were there. We were like at some other school, and like there was like judges, and there were all the other people that were doing their scenes. And then it finally came to me, and I was like, well, he's not going to make it. And I just
You're just thinking of TV shows you can reenact by yourself.
I just did the scene myself and just played both parts because I had remembered his lines too.
Oh, wow.
So I just did both things. So I was just like, man, what do you think about these socks? These are not good socks. They're not snug. They don't hang on to your ankles. Yeah, well, you just got to get there. And I just did that for 5 minutes.
What's funny is the people probably saw two names on the thing and were like, he really divides himself into two different personalities. Like he gave his other side a name. How avant-garde is this?
Oh, yeah. They probably thought I was schizophrenic or something.
I did the same thing one time in an audition live. I did it in the room where I had to play a guy from New York, like Brooklyn, Bronx area, talking like this, talking crazy. And then I played the other character, and they're like, oh, you can audition for both. What I didn't realize before I went in there, because I was not trained at all to expect this, was I needed to go in and audition separately. Instead, I did both right there up against myself because both characters were talking. I was like, they're like, what are you doing? I was like, 2 birds, 1 stone. They're like, no, you're supposed to come in. Like, oh, well, I just try to be efficient.
Well, I think we should, we've been going a lot longer on these questions than I thought we would. So we need to get on to the next one here.
Yeah.
So what are some notable obstacles in your journey and how did you overcome them?
At the beginning of my journey, the big problem that I was facing was in theater, there's like a lot of structure. You have to do things a certain way. Like, if you're doing like a piece from Bertolt Brecht, you can't do it like it's Commedia dell'arte, You can actually. You can really just do whatever the fuck you want. But there are people that will tell you that you're not allowed to do that. And then when you argue with them, they'll get mad at you. And then you have to tell your grandparents who you're living with, hey, I got in trouble for arguing with this person. And they're like, why'd you argue with them? And it's like, because I'm Carter.
I'm trying to be the next Jack Sparrow. Just let me make choices.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it's just like that. I don't know. And as a kid, I think another big obstacle was me. As a kid, I thought I fucking knew everything. And I thought I knew better than any adults in the room. And I really didn't. Like, I was one of those kids that had a smart mouth, but got like C's and everything. So
right.
It was just,
I think this is why we're friends, Carter. We're the same person in different skin. Like
that's what I was. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, that's kind of what I thought. I was super smart, and I like. But here's about what my smartness would do is I would be able to get the syllabus and use math to figure out the exact least amount of work I could do and still pass the class.
Yeah.
And that's all
brilliant.
my smartness. And so I was getting like C minuses and stuff too. But yeah, I always thought I was
arguably makes you smarter than any valedictorian, you know, because
well,
I mean, those guys like
that's real problem solving.
It's just like those like smart kids, like they worked really hard, and at the end of the day, their high school diploma is the same shit as our high school diploma, right? In a way, but also kids staying.
Yeah, and everything I got in trouble for in school is what I'm getting paid for now.
Yeah, well,
yeah, pretty much.
You know what? I don't know, because, when I started to do comedy and, working at a pizza place on the side, it made me go, why did I ever finish high school? I should have dropped out when I was a sophomore, started doing comedy and working at a pizza place, and I would probably be further on down the road than I am now.
I think it's just because of our system is totally different than the rest of the world's, because from what I understand in like London, England, you get to like choose a certain direction. It's like choose your own education. And then they block it out. And it's like once you get to high school, there's like just 2 blocks. It's like, oh, I want to go into criminal justice, kind of like a major, criminal justice and theater. And like both of those are your kind of high school majors. And then once you graduate, that's what you focus on. But you've already been going through these prerequisites, these classes, this conditioning of those 2 things. So you have perspective going into university over in Europe. I don't know how true that is, but from what I understand, that's a lot of it.
The one thing I would say is the only flaw about that, Cody, is that means that you're like deciding what you want to do at like the age of like 13 or something like that.
Yeah, and,
yeah. You might like veer off. Like it happens all the time. People like major in philosophy or something like that and end up being claims adjusters at Geico.
Right.
Now, nothing wrong with being a claims adjuster at Geico, okay? Like, we need those. But it just, it changes with the tides.
Having a 12, 13, and 14-year-old decide the rest of their life at that age when they don't even know why the hair is growing out of their penis. Yeah, that's a hard choice.
Yeah, not off of their penis, out of their penis, like out of the hole.
Wait a minute, what?
What's going on?
Yours guys just doesn't grow out?
I suppose that system would work if you can like change it as many times as you want.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you do that, like you just, all right, now I want to do rhythmic gymnastics. Okay, well now I want to be a lawyer. Well, now I only want to focus on World War I. Okay, Tom Hanks route, got it. All right. No, he was
but then you're reading World War I and it starts talking about mustard gas and you're just like, I want to get into chemistry.
Yeah, and then somebody else with a different religious background is like, I want to get into hot dogs. Like, oh, mustard, I love it.
Hey, well, as much as I would love to continue on to this, we should go on to the next question here. So where are you now in your journey? So he's talked a lot about where it started. You performing, for the first time by yourself on a play or a skit that was meant for 2 people. So that's the beginning. Where are you now?
I would say now I think I'm definitely in a better place. I'm in a place where I kind of have a better foundation for what I want to do. If all this like COVID shit had happened back when I was like in my teens or even my 20s, I think it would have just like brought me down to a complete stop. And I just would have like not really kept going. I don't think I was as motivated back then. I think now I'm like, oh, well, now I just have to do it a different way. I have to step out of my comfort zone. At 33, I'm a bit more willing to do that kind of thing. So like, while everything that's going on is like rough, I'm now in a place where I can keep going. So I feel like I've lost no like progress off of my career. Like I feel like everything is still going exactly in the direction that it needed to go, which is cool.
Right.
Like I'm able to reach as many people as I can possibly can. The shows with In the Meantime, like that's really been a thing that's really kind of got me to a really great place. Like I'm really grateful to Big Laugh.
That's a great show.
Brandon Lewis.
Like you
really
guys
is.
segmented up. The segments are great. It just allows everybody to be really silly. It's a really good show.
Thank you. And it took a long time to develop. Go ahead, Cody.
I was going to say, as far as your journey, like with what you've chosen to do and the journey that you're on, like, have you stayed in one place doing everything that you're doing, or has it evolved into taking you all over the world, or like you stay in certain places for certain times, or are you in a different place than where you started?
Well, I was in Portland, Oregon for quite a few years. That's how I know you. And then I met you, Cole, afterwards. But now I'm in.
Actually, we were talking about this. I'm sorry. We were talking about this last episode, and I can't remember if I met you in Oregon before Austin at one point. I don't know if we met formally, but I feel like we were on a show or a competition or something. Like I feel like I was on you.
Was
on
it
with you
McMinn?
on something?
If it was McMinnville, then maybe like the McMinnville Oregon comedy competition over there.
Okay, maybe. I don't know. I was trying to remember that, but yeah, because when I met you in Austin, I was like, I feel like I've had a show with you or been on something with you before, but I don't know.
Also, it might have just been another black guy. Like that's
it could have been Ken Hamlin.
You are one of a kind, Carter. There's no one that needs to know.
But yeah, no, I'm sorry I interrupted. But what were you saying?
My as far as my comedy journey, that pretty much started in Oregon. Like it all started there. But to go back briefly to the obstacle thing, one thing that I realized was going to be a major obstacle as far as like comedy goes is the oversensitiveness of everything right now. We've become very okay with cancel culture, and I think it is helpful in some ways. We definitely should cancel people who do illegal shit. But I don't know, people who just like say something that might be like slightly
make a Kobe Bryant joke 2 days after and they go end him, and you're just like that's such a
maybe
it's like maybe just don't listen to him. Maybe if you don't like people who do that kind of thing, maybe just don't watch them. You don't have to
just block them. Block them on Facebook.
We're talking like we should cancel things like pedophilia and Nazis, not things like zucchini bread and bad Kobe jokes. Like, come on now. Like,
But let's move on to the last question here. So who is somebody you're grateful for being in your journey? So Cody said you, which is why we have you on today. Who are we going to have on next week and why?
I would have to say, well, there are a lot of people, but one person that is a big part of my journey, and just because he inspires me to like work harder, like he really like I just see like how easily it comes for him, or at least how easily I feel it comes for him. I'm like, okay, I gotta beat this guy. I gotta fucking do it. I would say Lance Edwards. He's a really great comedian. Like out in the Washington area. I think he's definitely easily one of the best comedians in the Pacific Northwest. One of the best. Cody, you're one of the other ones.
Thank you.
But yeah, he's definitely up there, and he just goes up there. Sometimes I feel like he'll truly go up there with absolutely no material whatsoever, and then just talk about some shit. He'll get into some ignorant shit, and then he'll get into like some philosophical shit, and it's all just so funny, and he just
those people piss me off when they could just go up with nothing.
Yo,
it upsets me so much.
I met Lance for the very first time in Portland at the Funhouse Lounge, and we were at a late night open mic. It was like midnight or something. And
was this when we were with Adam Passy?
Yeah, I met him.
After the finals. Yeah,
you are so right. That dude's so funny. Like going up there, like that was a fun show, and there was hardly anybody there, but it was just a bunch of comics late night talking to each other. And that dude is awesome. He's awesome.
He's just such a trip, and it's just one of those things where it's just like it's very important for me to see Black people doing like awesome shit and doing it better than like anyone else that I see doing it, because it's like, okay, that means I can do that too. I used to like really, really rely on that thing. I don't rely on it as much. I kind of can be that for myself now. Like I can be like my own sort of motivator to like, or like my own sort of mentor to guide me towards like, you know, the next thing, or compete with myself, I guess you would say. But Lance is someone he's just always fucking kills it. He's a very, very funny comedian, and just a true entertainer. He's a true entertainer. And
I concur.
Nice. So yeah, I can't wait to hear more about him. He'll be on the next episode. Thank you so much, guys, for being on the show. I really appreciated this conversation. I really like talking to you guys. That was a good episode.
Likewise, brother.
But yeah, this was Journey and Wander. Do you guys want to give your plugs again?
I'll give mine. You can find me on Instagram at Cody Parr 3 or at Beertown Comedy. Visit the website shopbeertown.com for some great comedy related beer merchandise, and find me on my podcast at Welcome to HMB on Instagram.
You can find my Instagram at Cole_Robeson. That's ROBESON. You can see it right here. So I've got shirts there. I have some shows coming up, but they're just in Bend. I don't know if you guys, we've got the Super Fight Mike Finals here in Bend. That's coming up this Saturday. So there's a couple things to look out for. We'll have this coming out every week. So look out for it, and look out for all the other stuff on Big Laugh Comedy. There's a lot of great stuff. You know, we talked to Carter about Geeked Out and In the Meme Time, both great shows. Check them out. Thank you so much.